Pedro Paramo might be my favorite novel. It's definitely in the top 3. Please excuse my voice, I'm sick. Instead of just giving a plot synopsis, I think the best thing would be to read the great opening. I came to Kamala because I was told my father lived there, a man named Pedro Paramo. That's what my mother told me, and I promised her I'd come see him as soon as she died. I squeezed her hands as a sign I would. After all, she was near death, and I was of a mind to promise her anything. Don't fail to visit him, she urged. Some call him one thing, some another. I'm sure he'd love to meet you. That's why I couldn't refuse her, and after agreeing so many times, I just kept at it until I had to struggle to free my hands from hers, which were now without life. For this, she had told me, don't ask him for anything, just insist on what's ours, what he was obligated to give me but never did. Make him pay dearly, my son, for the indifference he showed toward us. I will, Mother. I never thought I'd keep my promise, until recently when I began to imagine all kinds of possibilities and allowed my fantasies to run free. And that's how a whole new world started swirling around in my head, a world built on expectations I had for that man Pedro Paramo, my mother's husband. That's why I came to Comala. Pedro Paramo is widely regarded as the greatest Mexican novel, and maybe the greatest written in Spanish. Juan Rulfo, although maybe not, is recognized outside of South America and Central America, is really one of the fathers of magical realism. Most people, when they think of that term, they think of Gabriel Marquez, if I remembered his name right, for 100 Years of Solitude. But actually, he was a huge fan of Juan Rulfo, who, by the way, only wrote 2 books. Pedro Paramo, which is only about 120 pages, a short story collection. He said that he kept dialing it down until he got it just basically to its essence, and I think it really worked. If you're a fan of stuff like Hemingway or Chekhov, maybe even a little bit of realism, even though it's slightly contradictory, you'll probably enjoy this quite a bit. Personally, I'm a sucker for more minimal styles, and especially that just like brutal beauty that maybe some of you caught in the opening, and my reading probably still doesn't do it quite justice. But the whole book, really, if I was going to sum it up in one word or one little bookish adjective, would be bleak. Something that I'm not sure everyone will appreciate. Adults will get more out of this book because there is something about it. Everything getting broken down to kind of nothing and then building up from there. And I don't really have a lot of great literary insights to this because it does feature kind of a fractured narrative that deals with this Juan Preciado trying to find his father after his mother passes. Not really too much of a spoiler that things are very strange in this town and you're wondering who's alive and dead, what's going on. This book's a little bit haunting. I'd more say a better adjective is eerie, because it's not scary at all. I don't remember, I think, anything actually being frightening. It also deals with the Mexican Revolution and kind of skips around. Also maybe tying to that, like what exactly is going on with this narrative and narration. And we actually see some of Pedro Paramo and these people talking about sometimes pretty heinous stuff, but it's kind of off camera, so to speak, and we don't really know exactly what happened. It reminds me a little bit of The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner, where same thing, some really intense stuff has happened, but you're piecing it together. And then also finding out about this Pedro Paramo appears to be like a Mexican revolutionary, and I don't know very much about that history. So some of that probably went over my head and most readers' heads. I don't think it's really talked that much about outside of Mexico. But like I said, it kind of comes back to just the beauty and the bleakness. There's just something about it, just some of the passages in the nature description, but yet it's got like this overarching kind of void, yet it's beautiful as well. And Juan Rulfo actually had experience with some of these things. His father was murdered by bandits 6 years after he was born. Then, after his father's killers walked free, his mom's heart failed soon thereafter. Then Juan was raised by his grandmother, and they ended up losing their family wealth during the Mexican Revolution. And the old writing advice is to write what you know, and I would say I agree. It again reminds me of Hemingway because he actually wrote a lot about things he went through, like the war injury he had, and then you read The Sun Also Rises. It was a similar thing, got him thinking. And of course, Farewell to Arms was about an ambulance driver, which he also did as well. So I think a pretty safe bet to check this out if you like Hemingway, but although, yeah, it's got a little bit of fantasy elements, but yeah, it's more in that magical realism, which I tend to like. Things are a little more grounded even in science fiction and fantasy. Please excuse the mustache, we're trying to have fun. Although this book is not really fun. It's fun because it's beautifully written, but yeah, the subject matter, although not explicit, is a little depressing. For some people, though, that's a good thing, so have fun. I don't know how much is Juan Rulfo. Obviously, I know very little Spanish despite taking 2 semesters of it in college. These Weatherford translations, and I haven't read the short story collection yet. I don't know how much is the translator. Haven't done a lot of research. Considering how much he edited this, and he only wrote basically 2 books, very minimal content. He dialed it in, obviously, quite a bit. I would imagine it's not too far, but you know, sometimes a maverick translation is better than a more literal translation, so do with that what you will. This is a book that I'd probably say has Silent Hill vibes. It's not really, the freaky monsters, but maybe more the psychological projections and the fog. More of that, again, that kind of empty sadness when you get to a low point and then you start thinking and evaluating things. And really it's atmospheric. That would be another way to describe it. And in that way, it reminds me of Silent Hill as well, even though I actually never played those games. And of course, the excellent soundtracks, which you should check out if you haven't heard of them already. Another kind of grand literary figure that really was impressed with Juan's work is Jorge Luis Borges, who also wrote some magical realism like metafiction and really trippy stuff. Yeah, you can check out Short Story Library of Babel. Is a good one. That's all I've actually read by him, and I think one was Tales of Iniquity. I don't remember exactly that one. One of his early works, not as good. He'd also write kind of like encyclopedic fiction, but him and Marquez are usually way more well-known than Juan Rulfo, and I never even heard of him. But yet he was kind of the forefront of this, and to me, more to my liking at least. Some people probably like the other two because they're a little more fantastical, and then Borges really gets out there. A lot of people like his stuff, and that's kind of a pinnacle for some. But I like the more dialed in, just, I guess, like sad and serious. Really makes you think and feel, although it's, like I said, I don't have like a lot of concrete things I can latch onto, and some of that may be just my fault. But the author himself said that this needs to be read like 3 times to understand it, which I have not done. And part of me is a little scared to revisit it because it just was such a beautiful reading experience, and also obviously you can run through it pretty quickly. But I don't know if on a second read I would like it as much. I would think it would hold up, but it will be an interesting reread for me. And then of course it's definitely easier to get more out of it when it's a difficult work like this. But it's not too difficult. I wouldn't let that scare you away. Definitely just dive in, and if you want, revisit it. If anything, just come for the vibes and the beautiful prose. And I don't think you can really go wrong. I don't think many books I've ever read can touch this. And I like Hemingway quite a bit. Not really his novels as much as his short stories. This is definitely something you don't want to sleep on. From what I've seen, it's really well regarded and talked about in Mexico, and then even on Spanish booktube channels and stuff, and it's bled over a bit. But I'm still not sure how much it's really broken through in the quote-unquote West. So this is definitely a classic that you should add to your memory banks. But yeah, highly recommend it. 9 out of 10.